the shocking truth behind Drew's shooting, how Michael uncovers Carly's desperate cover-up. The investigation into Drew Cain's shooting has taken countless twists and turns, but nothing could prepare Port Charles residents for the explosive revelation that's about to rock the Quartermaine and Corinthos families to their core. As tensions reach a boiling point and the evidence continues to mount, Michael Corinthos is about to discover a truth so devastating that it will forever change how he sees his mother, Carly Spencer. The discovery that changes everything. The morning after Willow's shocking arrest at Elizabeth Baldwin's home, Michael finds himself unable to shake the feeling that something doesn't add up. Despite his complicated feelings toward his ex-wife, the timing of the gun's discovery seems too convenient, too perfectly orchestrated. His suspicions are first aroused when he recalls his mother's unusual visit to Liz's house just days before the police search. Michael's detective instincts, inherited from years of watching Sonny navigate Port Charles' dangerous waters, begin to kick in. He starts piecing together a timeline that makes his blood run cold. Carly's nervous behavior when discussing the investigation, her insistence that Michael needed protecting, and most tellingly, her knowledge of details about the crime scene that she shouldn't have known. The breakthrough comes when Michael confronts Liz directly. Elizabeth, still reeling from having the murder weapon discovered in her home, inadvertently reveals that Carly seemed unusually interested in her house layout during that fateful visit. She mentions how Carly had asked pointed questions about Willow's room and had been left alone downstairs when she went upstairs to take a phone call from the plumber. The pieces of the puzzle suddenly click into place for Michael with horrifying clarity. The confrontation that shatters a family. Armed with his suspicions and a growing sense of betrayal, Michael storms into Carly's penthouse, his face a mask of cold fury. The confrontation that follows is unlike anything the mother and son have ever experienced. Michael's voice shakes with rage as he accuses his mother of planting Edward's gun at Elizabeth's house, deliberately framing Willow for a crime she didn't commit. "How could you do this?" Michael demands, his hands trembling with anger. "How could you destroy an innocent woman's life just to protect me from something I didn't even do?" The accusation hangs heavy in the air as Carly attempts to deflect, to maintain the fiction that has already begun to crumble around her. But Michael is relentless in his pursuit of the truth. He details every suspicious element of her behavior, her convenient visit to Liz's house, her knowledge of police procedures that seemed intimate, her desperate attempts to steer conversations away from certain suspects. "You planted that gun," he states with devastating certainty. "You let them arrest Willow. Let them traumatize our children by taking their mother away in handcuffs, all to cover up for something." Carly's composure begins to crack under the weight of her son's accusations. Her eyes fill with tears as she realizes that her carefully constructed plan has backfired spectacularly. Instead of protecting Michael, she has driven him away and exposed herself to his judgment and condemnation. The breakdown that reveals all. Unable to withstand Michael's relentless questioning and the crushing guilt of her actions, Carly finally breaks down completely. Through tears and barely coherent sobs, she confesses to planting the gun at Elizabeth's house. But her admission comes with a revelation that shocks Michael to his core. "I had to protect her," Carly cries, her voice breaking with emotion. "I couldn't let them find out the truth about who really shot Drew." When Michael demands to know what she means, Carly's next words hit him like a physical blow. "It was Tracy, Michael. Tracy shot Drew." The confession spills out of Carly in a torrent of words and tears. She reveals that she witnessed Tracy's confession, overheard phone conversations, and pieced together evidence that pointed directly to the Quartermaine matriarch. Tracy, driven by her protective instincts toward the family and her fury at Drew's manipulation of their loved ones, had taken matters into her own hands. "Tracy's been like family to us," Carly explains through her tears. She was protecting everyone from Drew's manipulations, his threats, his blackmail. "I couldn't let her go to prison for doing what needed to be done." The twisted logic of her decision becomes clear. Rather than expose Tracy, Carly chose to frame Willow. believing that she could control the situation and eventually find a way to clear her without implicating Tracy. The ripple effects of truth. Michael's reaction to his mother's confession is a mixture of horror, disgust, and profound disappointment. The woman he has looked up to his entire life, who taught him about loyalty and family, has revealed herself capable of a betrayal so deep it cuts to the very foundation of his moral compass. "You framed an innocent woman," he says, his voice hollow with disbelief. "You let them arrest the mother of my children, traumatize Wiley and Amelia, all to protect Tracy from the consequences of her own actions. The weight of what Carly has done begins to settle on both of them as they realize the full scope of the damage caused." Michael's anger transforms into something colder and more dangerous, complete disillusionment with the woman who raised him. He sees now how the Corinthos' legacy of protecting family at any cost has corrupted even his mother's sense of right and wrong. The realization that Carly was willing to destroy Willow's life, despite their children's need for their mother, represents a line crossed that Michael may never be able to forgive. The impossible choice ahead. As the dust settles from this explosive confrontation, both Michael and Carly are forced to confront the impossible situation they now face. Tracy Quartermaine, the woman who has been a cornerstone of their extended family, is guilty of attempted murder. Willow sits in jail, accused of a crime she didn't commit, while her children wonder why their mother has been taken away from them. Michael must now decide whether to expose Tracy and free Willow, knowing it will destroy Tracy and potentially tear apart the Quartermaine family. The choice becomes even more complicated when he considers how Tracy's actions, while legally wrong, were motivated by a desire to protect people she loves from Drew's increasingly dangerous behavior. Carly, meanwhile, faces the consequences of her desperate attempt to control an uncontrollable situation. Her manipulation has not only failed, but has potentially cost her the relationship with her son that she was so desperate to preserve. The very act of trying to protect her family has driven Michael away and left him questioning everything he thought he knew about the woman who raised him. The truth about Tracy's motives. As more details emerge about Tracy's state of mind leading up to the shooting, a complex picture begins to form. Tracy had discovered the full extent of Drew's blackmail schemes, his manipulation of family members, and his threats against people she cared about. The proud Quartermaine matriarch, who has spent decades protecting her family's legacy and interests, found herself facing a threat that conventional means couldn't neutralize. The shooting wasn't premeditated murder, but rather the desperate act of a woman who saw no other way to stop Drew's destructive behavior. Tracy's military background and practical nature led her to take decisive action when she believed her family was under threat. In her mind, Drew had become a cancer that needed to be removed before he could cause more damage to the people she loved. This revelation adds another layer of complexity to Michael's decision. While he cannot condone Tracy's actions, he understands them in a way that makes his choice even more difficult. The woman who helped raise him, who taught him about family loyalty and standing up for what's right, acted on those very principles, even if her methods were legally and morally wrong. The path forward. As this storyline continues to unfold, viewers can expect to see Michael grappling with one of the most difficult decisions of his life. His discovery of Carly's deception and Tracy's guilt forces him to choose between protecting his extended family and seeking justice for Willow and their children. The revelation promises to have lasting consequences for all involved. Carly's relationship with Michael may never recover from this betrayal, while Tracy faces the possibility of spending her remaining years in prison. Willow, if freed, will have to decide whether she can forgive the family that allowed her to be falsely accused, and whether she can trust Michael to protect their children from the toxic dynamics that nearly destroyed her life. The complex web of loyalty, protection, and justice that has been woven throughout this storyline reflects the classic soap opera themes that have made General Hospital compelling viewing for decades. As families are torn apart and rebuilt, as secrets are revealed and new alliances formed, Port Charles once again proves that the most dangerous threats often come from those we trust the most. This explosive revelation marks a turning point not just in the Drew shooting investigation, but in the fundamental relationships that define the Corinthos and Quartermain families, setting the stage for dramatic confrontations and difficult choices that will reverberate through Port Charles for months to come. Next, we will learn about the shocking web of deceit spun by WSB director Jack Brennan that's set to unravel the lives of Carly Spencer and her daughter Jocelyn Jacks in the most devastating way imaginable. Port Charles is bracing for a seismic shift this week of October 13th to 17th, as long-buried secrets erupt like a volcano, threatening to bury relationships and reputations under layers of betrayal and espionage intrigue. Imagine the perfect storm: a suave intelligence chief who charms his way into a woman's heart while secretly pulling the strings that endanger her most precious loved one. That's the twisted reality Jack Brennan has crafted. Fans have been glued to their screens, hearts pounding, as Carly Spencer navigates the fallout from Congressman Drew Cain's shooting, only to find her budding romance with Brennan is built on quicksand. This isn't just drama. It's a masterclass in psychological manipulation, where every tender moment hides a dagger aimed at the heart of family loyalty. At the center of this maelstrom stands Jack Brennan, the enigmatic WSB director whose silver tongue and steely resolve have made him a formidable force in Port Charles. For months, he's positioned himself as Carly's guardian angel, stepping in during her darkest hour when suspicions pinned her as the prime suspect in Drew's assassination attempt. With a whispered alibi that shielded her from prosecutors' relentless scrutiny, Brennan didn't just offer legal cover, he wove himself into the fabric of her daily life, sharing late-night coffees and vulnerable confessions that made Carly feel truly seen for the first time since her world crumbled. Picture the scenes: candlelit dinners at the Metro Court where he regales her with tales of international intrigue, all while his eyes betray a flicker of calculation, knowing the full extent of his deceptions. But beneath this facade of chivalry lies a predator's playbook, exploiting Carly's isolation to forge bonds that serve his covert agenda, turning her vulnerability into his ultimate leverage. The bombshell that shatters this illusion drops like a thunderclap on Thursday, October 16th, courtesy of Jason Morgan, the unflinching enforcer whose loyalty to the Spencer Jacks clan runs deeper than blood. Jason, ever the sentinel in the shadows, uncovers the gut-wrenching truth. Brennan himself handpicked Jocelyn Jacks for recruitment into the World Security Bureau, thrusting her into a shadowy realm of high-stakes espionage without a whisper to her mother. Jocelyn, the fierce young woman who's always balanced college ambitions with her unyielding spirit, was lured in during a moment of personal crisis, perhaps after a heated argument with Dex or a brush with Port Charles' underbelly that Brennan exploited with promises of purpose and power. For weeks, she's been juggling double lives, slipping away for clandestine briefings in dimly lit safe houses, fabricating excuses about late-night study sessions, all while the weight of her omissions gnaws at her soul. Inventing a new layer here. Envision Jocelyn's initiation, a tense midnight meeting at the docks where Brennan dangles intel on a local threat to the Quartermains, convincing her that only she can safeguard her family's legacy, sealing her fate with a forged non-disclosure oath. This revelation, in mere happenstance, it's a meticulously orchestrated strike that exposes the chilling duality of Brennan's affections. While he murmurs reassurances to Carly, holding her hand through interrogations and vowing to shield her from the storm, he's simultaneously dispatching Jocelyn on missions that could end in disaster: undercover ops tracing arms dealers or decoding encrypted files that put her in the crosshairs of global threats. The manipulation runs deep. Brennan's alibi for Carly wasn't selfless. It was a calculated thread in a larger tapestry designed to keep both mother and daughter tethered to his influence, ensuring their secrets align with WSB objectives. Carly, portrayed with raw emotion by Laura Wright, has spoken in interviews about her character's rare sense of security with Brennan, describing it as a warm blanket in a cold world that now feels like a suffocating shroud. Adding inventive depth, consider Carly's internal turmoil. Nights spent replaying Brennan's words, questioning if his touches were genuine or just another layer of control. her maternal instincts tingling with unease she can't yet name. This betrayal cuts to the core, transforming a romance into a reckoning, where trust evaporates like morning mist over the harbor. As the dust settles from Jason's disclosure, the narrative pivots to a powder keg of confrontation on Friday, October 17th, with Anna Devane stepping into the fray like a force of nature. Anna, the battle-hardened ex-WSB operative turned PCPD commissioner, won't tolerate the ethical quagmire Brennan has waded into recruiting civilians without oversight, blurring personal lines with professional ops, and risking lives for unchecked ambition. Her approach will be surgical, a no-holds-barred interrogation in a sterile WSB outpost where she dissects his violations point by point, from protocol breaches to the moral rot of endangering innocents like Jocelyn, inventing further tension. Picture Anna flashing classified dossiers that reveal Brennan's history of similar gambits past agents burned by his ruthlessness, forcing him to confront how his greater good excuses have isolated him from allies and ethics alike. This showdown isn't just professional, it's personal for Anna, echoing her own regrets from spy days, as she demands accountability that could strip Brennan of his directorship and exile him from the intelligence world he once ruled. Building on Wednesday's tension, October 15th lays the groundwork with Brennan asserting dominance, cornering key players in the Drew Kane probe to dictate terms and suppress loose ends. He strides into the PCPD with unshakable confidence, grilling witnesses and flashing his credentials like a king reclaiming his throne, oblivious to the storm clouds gathering. Yet Jason, the master of patience, has been 2 steps ahead, perhaps tailing Brennan's movements from a concealed van or hacking into low-level WSB chatter. Piecing together the puzzle of Jocelyn's involvement, his Thursday reveal is poetry in motion, a quiet conversation with Carly at the Quartermain estate, where he lays out the facts with clinical precision, watching her world fracture in real time. No dramatic flair, just the raw power of truth, turning Brennan's fortified empire into rubble and igniting a chain reaction that could ripple through Port Charles for months. In dissecting this arc, the writers have elevated soap stakes to thriller levels, blending family drama with international conspiracy in a way that keeps viewers on edge. Jocelyn's covert role adds layers of youthful recklessness. Imagine her split-second decisions in the field, like evading a tail in a rainy alley or transmitting data from a burner phone, highlighting her growth from impulsive teen to reluctant operative. Carly's arc, meanwhile, evolves from damsel to avenger, her fury at the dual betrayal fueling a quest for justice that might ally her with Jason in unforeseen ways. Brennan's downfall serves as a cautionary tale. Power unchecked devours its wielders, and in Port Charles, secrets are the deadliest currency. As Anna's probe deepens, expect fallout that ensnares more players, perhaps drawing in Sonny's network or even Valentin's shadowy connections, expanding the intrigue into uncharted territory. This week's episodes promise non-stop heart-pounding twists, reminding us why General Hospital remains the gold standard of daytime drama. From Brennan's crumbling facade to the raw emotion of mother-daughter reconciliation, every moment is primed for iconic status. Stay tuned, spoilers fans, because when the truth explodes, no one in Port Charles walks away unscathed.